Hey, we finally are back from an absolutely, honestly, phenomenal evening of CNL. Tiaki, we got to see a bit of the Wolves versus 4AM, a bit of MQ versus TEC, and both matches have been an absolute barn burner. Full length in regulation for both of them. One overtime game out of one of those two, and we got one more matchup on our hands. Which is the Leviatan Soul versus TYLOO, which equally is looking to bring some rather curious storylines, I would say.
Oh, I mean, so far from what we've seen with the entirety of the CNL, it has been absolutely amazing and insane. Both of the teams, or I should say all four of the teams that we've seen so far have been incredible in their play styles, and I mean, it's small, minute differences that have been making each round change, each round won, each round lost. It is such an interesting region to see themselves up and running, and so good to welcome them in to the entire R6 esports scene. Of course, 7-5 on bank. My Queens managed to get straight through with a very close match overall, and of course, putting up the big numbers was on both sides. It was pretty evenly spread between my Queens, but of course, we got to take a look at Arcox. He was able to get 17 and 7 throughout their match, putting up big numbers to push his team up to that 5-round at the end, and only a 2-round differential for them. And so far, I mean, this is just a great game to start us off, but we have one more up on the cards, CTHLOO.
Exactly that. Yeah, one more on the cards. The CN League continues to deliver. The Leviatan Soul versus TYLOO are up, on the come up as well. And in the meantime, yeah, the TEC versus MQ, like you said, has been an absolutely huge turnaround here. TYLOO, right? The team that has, for the most of it, has been bringing in a very much of a homebrew sort of roster. But they have one man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Songler himself, being part of the roster, the ex-Direwolves player, ex-Rival Esports, as well as Team Orchid, player that has been there and been now able to bring in the experience from the international leagues now back to the CNL and being able to play with a pretty solid organization that is TYLOO, as well as a pretty solid turnaround, I would have to say. On the other side, Leviatan Soul, a roster that hasn't really seen much of a really showcase outside of CNL, or as a matter of fact, any showcase outside of CNL. So this would be a pretty curious case to bear witness and see how will they be able to really fare here as well. Plus, this is, I believe, our second showcase of the Group B. So outside of Edward Gaming, this will be the second set of the two games that we'll get to see. And tomorrow, I believe EDG will get to showcase themselves as well. And we'll get to see the beautiful, the man, the myth, the legend, Mentalist C as well, making his appearance then. But as of now, look, Tiaki, I will have to say, I have to give my bias towards TYLOO on this one.
Yeah, look, I mean, when you're just comparing the two rosters, you're comparing the two players and the play style that they kind of go with, the experience that they bring, it has to be on TYLOO's side. That's absolutely for certain. With the veteran, of course, as you mentioned, Songlar coming in there, the experience that he can provide to a team is absolutely skyrocketed by his intelligence and his knowledge of the game as a general whole, bringing it back and joining TYLOO, potentially bringing all that information onto the team, which we will see during this game. But we cannot count out Leviatan Soul. Every team that's kind of gone up this evening, it's been like, okay, look, we have a bunch of players here that we know can do well, that we know we've seen them absolutely pop off in the right circumstances. So in retrospect, we really can't be counting out almost any of these teams. And so going in, TYLOO may be the favorites, but of course Leviatan, they can put up some numbers if they need to. And hopefully we will see a very close game. I'm kind of down to see another match point OT game, and yeah, I mean, what else can you say? Both these two teams rosters are just going to be incredible to watch.
Absolutely. So yeah, so whilst we are waiting for vetoes as well, we got to see as well some of the more curious choices in terms of the bans and picks and what could have been in, what didn't happen really. But it's cool to see that, you know, for the first day as well of, well, some of the first few days of CNL, we get to see, you know, players leave their mark as well on the wall for the inaugural season for CNL and the subsequent introduction of the Chinese teams to the global circuit here as well. And look, I gotta just highlight it just one more time. Look, this setup, this venue to kick off the entirety of the, you know, the international introduction to CNL, that venue is absolutely stunning.
Oh, absolutely. It's what you wish to be able to be involved in and what you wish teams to be kind of playing on, especially when you're talking about like an offline LAN scenario. It is just absolutely brilliant, absolutely perfect. But of course, as we go in, it does mean the teams will get their first experience of kind of sitting down, seeing their opponents on the opposite side, seeing them face to face in a lot of these circumstances, and that does play a little bit on the mental as a result. But again, at the same time, you also have the ability to look over, see what they are kind of feeling, and get the vibe from them. And the vibes here are absolutely on point. Well, not too long until we get into the vetoes for this upcoming game. But of course, with TYLOO, they are a team to be scared of, a team that can bring so much reckoning. And of course, someone carrying a few of the players up and ready.
Oh yeah. Look, I'm all keen, and very much looking forward to see who's going to be the big winner. Honestly, I'm just waiting till the map vetoes do finally come on through, because I mean, once again, we don't really have much of the knowledge in terms of what was the set of picks before, unless the benevolent, the Lord ruling does share the stats that he would have as well, albeit I would imagine that even those will be relatively scarce, considering that the man has to pull basically the double shifts, if not quadruple shifts, on the production. But look, this has been so far an absolutely stunner of a league, and honestly, CNL has very pleasantly impressed me so far with the caliber of the play, with some of the strats that have been introduced, with the fact that just how more flexible the teams do play, that where they try to be a little bit more proactive about say when it's on defense to receive the push, when it's on offense on how to really, you know, try to make a push. Obviously, it's not a perfect experience, and obviously we got to see quite a fair few of the flopped attacks and a few flopped defenses, but the overall approach has been so far very, very promising, and something that is indicating that China may in fact be able to get themselves out onto the international stage pretty soon, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, like, what a good setup that has been made so far for this group, well, the group stage as a general whole for the CNL. I mean, we talked about Group B. That's where both of these teams are right now. That's where they're playing for and where they're playing at. It is, of course, 4 Angry Men, Wolves, Edward Gaming, Leviatan, and again, apologies if I say that name wrong, then TYLOO as well. So many teams there that you look at and immediately go, where could this potentially go? So far, the only team that's really made an impact within that group has been 4 Angry Men. They won 8-7, a very close set of rounds up against Wolves Esports, but every single player that I look at in terms of that Group B just feels so incredibly threatening. And when you look and compare to what we're currently seeing on the international stage, I can just immediately go, right, 4 Angry Men, I can see them there. Wolves, I can see them there. Edward Gaming with Mentalist, we haven't seen them play just yet, so we won't know the caliber of play that they're bringing in, but most likely we will potentially see them there. And one of these two teams today will be able to show us how they may or may not impact on the international stage. But as far as we've seen, it doesn't really give us even a light insight to how these teams play. And for the international stage, every team that we've seen so far today could definitely be up there.
Absolutely. So, well, he's hoping that we'll get to see the play very soon, and we might actually finally be getting the bans and the picks. And well, we are going back to Nighthaven Labs. Tiaki, once again, Chalet was very much one pick away from being picked, and funnily enough, it is Fortress, Clubhouse, and Lair that are the first ones to go away. Bank and Cafe were the ones to be cancelled out through the ban phase, and then Consulate, Chalet are the last two final bans that came on through, and honestly understandable as well, considering that, you know, you wouldn't want a Fortress, you wouldn't want much of the really anything unsure and unknown. You want to go onto the maps that have been so far part of the overall meta, and certainly so the decider being the Nighthaven Labs is all they're very much of a warranted choice.
Yeah, I mean, Nighthaven Labs, we've talked about it earlier, especially when we were looking at the two teams that came through a little bit earlier in the evening. Of course, that was, ironically enough, the same teams in the same group, 4 Angry Men and Wolves, and it came down to a nail-biter. Both of the two teams were so close to each other in terms of their playability, in terms of their style. And I mean, just going straight onto this, when you look at both of these two teams, Lev and of course TYLOO, it is absolutely incredible to see them on Labs. Defender side of map is what it normally is, starting off with CC upstairs, going downstairs into that basement section, and of course mid-floor with kitchen and any other potential opposite area for that tertiary site. So there's so many options for these teams to go off, so many options for these teams to play on. And I mean, what else can we really say, Cthulhu? It is Nighthaven Labs. It is a rough map.
Yeah, Nighthaven Labs can very much be a bit of a rough one, but honestly, this is the perfect map for us to get a bit more of a feel for how CNL really plays it all out on a higher level of play. I mean, TYLOO should be able to give us a pretty good match as well here against Leviatan Gaming and or Leviatan Soul rather. And look, from what we got to see, I'm pretty stoked about this. We got to see some pretty actually proactive, like I mentioned before, gameplay. So I'm just keen. I want to see more of this matchup, and from there we can dissect it further to what really happened.
Well, let's take into consideration what we saw earlier this evening from the 4 AM crew, and of course the opposition team of Wolves. Both teams were able to open up the site quite quickly. They were able to get all the walls, all the angles that we expect to see in high-level play immediately identified, and immediately taking control of it as quickly as possible to gain that territory. When it came to the bottom floor, we didn't often see the big main wall opened up. It was more of a top-down take. So clearing that top floor, clearing the main floor, and then going down into the bottom floor at the very end, most of the time through Animus. But of course, going into the tertiary site as well, it was that same sort of extension built upstairs. That's all high-level strategy. That's all high-level play coming in from these guys. And we expect to see the same sort of ideal coming out from them going into this game. Of course, Nighthaven Labs kind of gets a bit, I'm going to say it gets a little bit repetitive. You start to see the same sort of strategies almost unfold in a lot of different types of play. It's whether or not these teams can answer back on it and immediately find some sort of counters to what we're expecting to see from each of their sides. And at the end of the day, it comes down to adjustment, tweaking, and refining yourselves up against the team as you play them round by round. This match is going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, match could be pretty full on. I'm looking forward to see how well Leviatan Seoul would be able to hold their position here against TYLOO, because I mean, at least on the side of TYLOO, you could argue that at least there's international recognition, there's some knowledge, some experience for the players. But look, I mean, we went into the earlier game, Wolves versus 4AM, and look, I was under the full impression that Wolves would be able to come out the victor, but here we are, and 4AM were the ones that were able to come out the victor, considering the fact that they actually, I believe both the Wolves roster as well as 4AM had international coaches as well for themselves. So yeah, you get quite a fair bit of the knowledge, quite a fair bit of information coming on in from the other regions, and that would usually also enhance how the team would be able to perform and play. So going into this, I'm unsure exactly where to really place both of these rosters, considering that on paper you would argue that Leviatan Seoul has mostly a homebrew roster with homebrew coaches as well, whereas on the side of TYLOO you have slight knowledge of the international scene. But look, that we do finally get the map start, so we'll finally get to see the matchup play out in its full entirety. Nighthaven Labs Tiaki, and we get a 63-37. Ooh, that one is gonna sting on the predictions if Leviatan Seoul does come out the victor.
Yeah, look, we can't absolutely guarantee that what we see in the predictions is going to happen at all in any respect. Last game, it was a 40 to 60% chance up for Titan. They were the ones that were predicted to win. Didn't end up happening, was completely given over to the opposition team, and they ended up winning 7-5. So predictions may be damned in this game as the first set of bans begin to come through. And they seem to be a consistent set of bans that we are seeing. Of course, the Hard Breacher coming in for Thermite on one side, the Glaz as well in play. On the opposite end, it is the Mirror and Azami being taken off the board. Big operators in retrospect, but going on to the first site, and it looks like we're going to see something a little bit different to what we were expecting. First floor is going to be the initial site of held site, with the Blackbeard, a Blitz coming on to the attacking end, and the Clash Denari sneaks through onto the opposite end. So it feels like everything here is kind of being set up, somewhat workshopped within this first round. But remember, first round be damned. It will provide us a little bit of info, but not everything on how the game's going to go.
Well, Clash certainly does feel like it's almost a necessity nowadays, at least in the current way how the meta goes. And understandably so. I mean, you're looking at the picks for the attack out of the Leviatan. There is a Blitz being introduced as I'm nearly choking away on my own air. But looking at the overall lineup, though, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Leviatan, because you got the double hard breach, so you're ensuring that even if one of them does fall, you are able to sort of recuperate some of your losses here. And then, well, the Blitz, now that you've got to see, the Clash being exposed, maybe we'll see some sort of maybe a fight back, and maybe they will be able to really respond back. But otherwise, well, the breaches have been already done. First 30 seconds, nice and easy. Not really that much of a breach denial either, so that kind of expected. But it's good to see that TYLOO already are all prepped, and on the side of Leviatan, they're not really wasting too much time. Actually, whoa, wait, they already pushed in very far in as well on the side of Leviatan, and well, that's actually potential for another breach to be done, and as a matter of fact, already first frag has been now accumulated.
Yeah, you look straight off the bat and straight on the board. It is a massacre coming in from TYLOO. It was almost a good setup, almost a good start, but TYLOO answers straight back. Leviatan end up giving away a lot of their positions, and it's all down to one member. He'll make the drop away, but he's got to run around. He's got everyone in every position fighting him now, and TYLOO, a very convincing first round.
Yeah, really, really well paced, and being able to catch Leviatan off from their footing really has been pretty great, I have to say. Hopefully, we'll get to see the continuation of that and get a little bit more of a a clearer view as to how that flank really did come to fruition. But otherwise, I have to give it to them. That was actually really, really well done on their end, and well, we might actually be able. We might be getting yet another tech pause here as well. Yes, so we are in fact getting a tech pause right after the first round, ladies and gentlemen. So I think with that said and done, we may be going on a bit of a cheeky break. We come back to you once it all is fixed up, and well, we shall continue our coverage of the CNL here. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, Leviatan versus TYLOO is now on your screens. Cthulhu and Tiaki on the microphone. We're returning back to it after a banger of a first round. TYLOO certainly had a pretty good understanding of what needs to be done, and the flank game has been very much sensational. Tiaki now going into the round number 2. We're getting to see... please tell me this is not a shotgun central, because I just spotted already 2 shotguns in the hands of 2 TYLOO players.
Need more shotguns. Bring more shotguns, please. I want to see every single member having a shotgun at some point. I'm waiting to see. No. Okay, we've got 2 shotguns at least, but maybe one more potentially on the side of Songla. For now, though, TYLOO, first round, it was absolutely under their control. There was no issues, no worries in the way that they were playing, and immediately it was just a rotation that ended up catching so many members from the opposition team off guard and catching them in a bad setup. For now, we're upstairs doing a little bit of an extension all the way to the bottom floor. It needs to be a top-down placement from the opposition team. And of course, for now, it's going to come down to the way that TYLOO really wants to allow these players to make their way forward.
Yeah, looking at the lineup as well, going forward is very much looking to be in Leviatan, honestly, well, power. Considering already the breach has been done into the Animus, we could be going pretty quickly. And the way how so far the response from TYLOO is happening, it looks like they're not particularly two-phased. They got one person, or rather one pair of eyes, basically all staring at the breach and waiting for any sort of calls, and otherwise the rest of the team is looking to keep things running for now. In the meantime, top floor, Leviatan looking to try to find sort of an initial opening, but not looking particularly too keen about where to really push or how to really push in there, and maybe we'll get to see a play from there.
Well, the major concept is the control game, the territorial game for both of these two teams, and at this stage, TYLOO still has so much territory that needs to be cleared. A bit of back and forth with Songla will be the death of one of the members from Leviatan. And of course, movement going straight back. Look at TYLOO. They immediately see the opportunity to move away from the location and then capitalize on it almost instantly. For the rest of the members of the opposition team, they'll need to start making a plan of execution. At this stage, they've got 2 members on the outside able to get in through that main wall breach, as the last bit of soft breach will begin to come through, but players not really spotted out just yet. A little bit of bullets going back and forth. 10 seconds remaining. It's going to be Songla who's still on the roam to find one. Trade back is going to come through. Montaigne able to find it. It's going back and forth. He's found so many, but gets caught up with no diffuser. That is the round done. And although TYLOO managed to secure it, that was a lot more shaky than we saw in the first round.
That's correct, yeah. TYLOO, while still being able to keep control of their overall pacing, certainly feeling a little bit more pressured now, as Leviatan are certainly able to keep up the overall pressure and overall pacing, but for them to continue to keep things rolling, they'll just need a little bit more oomph in there, a little bit more aggression, I would even dare to say, because we did get to see a couple of times they sort of faltered there for a brief moment to find any sort of initial momentum, which could have actually skyrocketed them pretty well. Even just as a half rush play wouldn't have been too particularly bad of an idea, but otherwise I'm looking forward to see if they would be able to hook up any further.
Well, that's the idea. Cooking, finding kills, making the game work for you. And at the moment, TYLOO, they've been able to secure a few rounds on the board. But that's not to say that there is no answer from the opposite side. Of course, Cthulhu in that first game that we jumped onto, Wolves were able to bring back so many rounds when they got onto the defensive side. I believe, as you mentioned, it was a 5-1. Ended up being a very, very close 8-7. So the game is nowhere near even in its ending stages just yet. But TYLOO, they are looking to try and secure a few more rounds if up and available. Connection wall is going to be opened up, as well as on the opposite end, it is IT being opened up as well. Songla, though, makes an initial answer, and it's going to be the head of the Ying. And with only a minute down, that's a big pickup with that much utility.
Yeah, huge opener there. Though TYLOO is still getting pressured quite plenty. Percy is looking to go in for the push very soon. Unfortunately, not yet enough of the actual crossfire ability to really facilitate the actual pressure to come on through. And unfortunately for Leviatan, it still continues to be the pain and just the trouble galore. The re-swings are absolutely devastating here as well, as Songla claims yet another life. 2 more remaining under the banner of Leviatan, and that is actually make it a 1. That is all a twitch on Chichu, looking to try to re-swing, maybe a hero play to boot. Swings comes around, does hear the footsteps. Unfortunately, the pre-fire does not land, and so is the life as that gets shut down very, very promptly. A 3-0 lead just like that from TYLOO on the defense. Certainly having a very, very extreme power to it, whereas on the side of Leviatan, so far, still yet to find their own footing. And, well, one would hope that maybe going into the second quarter of the match, we will be starting to find a little bit more of a response from them.
And it's a beautiful answer coming back from TYLOO. Any single play that Leviatan ends up coming up with and trying to execute is immediately cut down within a matter of seconds. And it's such entertaining sort of gameplay when we start to see the teams adapt. However, the longer that this goes, there is a demanding prospect. The opposition team, Leviatan, needs to start modifying themselves. They need to realize the team that they're up against and find those avenues. 1 round is what we know teams can really work with. Even if it doesn't get to 1 round, you still have 3 more rounds here that you can lock out. The mechanics on TYLOO are good. Doesn't mean that they cannot be broken. And so far, from what we've seen, yes, they've got 3 rounds on the board, but these last 2 rounds have been a lot more shaky than what we saw from them in the first round. Of course, practically, this means we need to start seeing a bit of a switch up and a bit of a different sort of playstyle coming in from Leviatan. And I saw it just for a second there, but I'm liking the snake pick.
Oh yeah, I'm always a fan of the snake pick as well in the current meta, in the current situation. Honestly, the amount of information that he does provide is absolutely phenomenal. And with the weaponry that he introduces and the flexibility, at least theoretical flexibility that he brings, there's a lot of good stuff that can come out of that choice as well. Thank you as well to the observing team. I know that they can't hear us, but massive kudos for them once again with all the pips and the secondary views. But a lot of information actually still being introduced here for the snake player as well, because at least the good knowledge should introduce some more opportunities for the push as well. In the meantime, though, call does come on through. Are we expecting to see a pretty quick escalation here, or is it going to be yet another down-paced play, you reckon?
Well, immediately, honestly, it's going to be the rotation downstairs from the mute that's going to be the big factor, moving in at the last possible second. I think if we're going to see a rush play in this, it could be a big problem, and that is why. Welcome the Pulse into the round, manages to get 1 straight off the board, and it is the snake that is taken off quick and easy. On the opposite end, they still have so much information that they need to gain. Still a nitro cell up in hand as well, and they're all moving up and around as the timer continues to go for a bit of a little bit of a tick down, a lot of clearance being made in towards the site, but no diffuser being placed at this stage. A second nitro cell goes out and it manages to pick up another member. It is the Dokkaebi taken off the board. No more logic bombs up and available, and they're still playing with members downstairs, waiting for that potential plant to go through. And I think they will be able to spot it. 53 seconds on the board, Cthulhu. Leviatan needs to find some sort of answer.
An answer, in fact, does need to happen, but a lot of the crossfire is currently being in place. Kersey is stuck between a rock and a hard place, really. Here as another flank now starting to come around. There needs to be some coverage. There needs to be a push. IT is looking to really try to make a play, but no, completely unconfirmed on the push, forces him to forfeit the life, and now it's all down to a 1 versus 5. Does drop it down to 1 versus 4, but that's unfortunately all that could have been done there as TYLOO scores themselves their 4th point for the play. Unfortunate turnaround for the roster. For one, maybe we'll get to see a little bit more of a response once we'll go on to the second half, but as it stands for Leviatan, things have been quite just unfortunate in every possible capacity.
There doesn't appear to be enough oppression. There doesn't appear to be enough pressure being placed on the map from Leviatan. Everything that they are doing currently seems to have some sort of answer immediately back from TYLOO, and they just explode with coordination in terms of the way that they're approaching it. I mean, just these nitro cells are a great example of how well players can set up a teamwork coordination round and just find multiple kills in each side. On the opposite end for TYLOO, everything has been methodical. Everything has been... They've taken their time, obviously, to work on the way that they approach, the way that they call, the way that they hear any sort of potential push, and everything is just perfect at this stage from them. The real answer now becomes, what do you do differently? What do you change up? And what do you bring into the fold? And this looks like a rush.
Oh, yes, this is going into full-on as well with the Finca boost as well. This might be the breakthrough. Leviatan opens up a phenomenal scoreline there, though Kersey falls. No, SO5 as well is out of the equation, though a trade-off does come around. 2 for 2 for Tad is coming on through. Chichu does fall amidst it all to Auri, or our K, all down to 2 more players. Leviatan has a real opportunity here to really finally get themselves on board and begin their ascension here as well. 2 minutes to go. They had to dial down a whole lot more, but playing in tandem should at least allow them the refragability here as well. In the meantime, for TYLOO, they are holding it down. They are expecting some sort of a forced push to come on through, and, well, the cameras are gathering plenty amount of information. Unfortunately, Snake falls. It's all down to IT as well, and just trying to chase for the frag. Unfortunately, that does not come to any of the fruition, and now a reswing to come on through. It's the Solus with a P90 ready to go. Frag grenade to come on out, forcing the swing to happen, and it will be, in fact, TYLOO claim yet another round, and oh so close for Leviatan as they are just on the precipice of claiming the rounds.
Well, it's a beautiful nade to push the player off of the position, but unfortunately with the HP differential, it is being cut down so quickly on both sides. And I mean, drones, utility, everything that is being used by TYLOO is a perfect answer back for Leviatan. And yeah, look, I mean, there's a lot of great things that we're seeing in terms of setup, in terms of execution. That was beautiful start. Really caught the enemies off guard, was able to find a definite set of kills and an advantage overall as a general whole. But for the most part, at the end, it just all ended up crumbling in the last few seconds. I mean, look at this. Straight in. Beautiful shots to take one out. Yes, the trade comes through. That was a really lucky shot at the end there. But then the mounted aggression from the side of TYLOO manages to just gain the control that they're looking for. And look, it may be a 5-0. We've said this plenty of times because it always seems to happen on this map. It doesn't matter if this map goes to a 6-0. It doesn't matter if it goes to a 5-1. This map can completely change on its head when teams begin to switch round into their strat lines, into their more comfortable position. And for TYLOO, they may have 5, but they will need to secure it fully and properly from here on.
Exactly that. I'm liking as well the very prompt approach by Leviatan on how they wanting to approach some of the gunfights, and straight off the bat actually trying to force some of the engagements. Flashbang starting to fly on in to try to force the entry, and in fact there will be SO5 unfortunately passes away, though the frag comes on out. It's a full-on entry. That's nearly a trade-off. No, the fall of 2 of the players does force the complete forfeiture, but no, even the pistol comes on out amidst all of this action. A 6th point emerges, but it's just, it is so close, Tiaki. Leviatan is so close on just scoring themselves the point, but just end up falling apart at the very last moment there. And things are certainly not the best, but we have reached the halfway point. The first half has concluded. It is a 6-0 for TYLOO. They need 1 more point. On the side of Leviatan, though, there's a lot of ground that needs to be covered.
6-0, the current score line, and just no immediate answers back from the opposition team. It is a rough situation to be in, but it's not impossible. Teams have been able to get out of this plenty of times before, and it's just as we always say, it's not over until the game is fully done. On the side of Leviatan, there has been promise. We've seen some aggressive playstyles that have worked extremely well, found a lot of kills, minor mistakes being made that have led to the loss of those rounds, but for the most part, it has been beautiful answers back, especially with the aggression. On the opposite side for TYLOO, the way that they're playing, it is so captivating. It is so fascinating to just see how these guys have been playing. And I mean, what else is here besides a challenging, demanding problem that is this opposition team? Nighthaven Labs, we make the switch up. We switch defense to attack, attack to defense now. And of course, coming in, it does mean that we will start to see it a little bit more difficult for TYLOO, who seem to be all smiles at this stage.
Yeah, all smiles at this stage for them. They are very much still sticking to their own pace, to their own game, and certainly seems to be working just perfectly well. Otherwise, yeah, on the side of Leviatan, this has been a bit of an unfortunate turnaround, really, just considering that they have had a pretty solid idea with how they want to play it all out. Unfortunately, it's been a bit of a hit and miss. Still yet to score a point, but nonetheless, I don't think the scoreline does depict the efforts here in any capacity. With the ban starting to come on out, interestingly enough, we actually get to see a double shield ban to come on out of Leviatan, and for all the right reasons. This is a roster that, or rather, well, in this case, this is a map that basically requires you to get rid of the shields, and on the side of TYLOO, they decided to completely shut down any breach denial. So breach is very much guaranteed from here on out. It's more so about when it is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's so interesting to see the bans coming in during the T1 stage, even the T2 stage as a general whole, because I mean, you can just imagine teams have bans on bans on bans that they know how to play against, and operators that they pick specific for those bans. It is so interesting to see the thought process and the ideals that these teams come with. And I mean, for TYLOO, they will definitely have a plan for the bans that came through, as will Leviatan. So coming into this 0-6 defensive side to kick it off, And I mean, here is where things will start to get interesting. TYLOO wants to close this game as quickly as possible, and that's a bit of a problem.
Is in fact a bit of a problem, yeah, because considering we are already on a match point, losing any sort of lives here will be very, very costly here for Leviatan, as TYLOO are just continuing their march. Really, they now get the reins basically of how quickly does the match really go, and they're not really wasting too much of a time. Breaches are already starting to go down. We are getting the opener as well as that the balcony is also done and dusted. Otherwise, yeah, 4 more frags to be done, and that is looking to be TYLOO's game. Otherwise, for Leviatan, they are needing, like air, the frags here. They needing to shut down any sort of momentum, and as of now, well, they got the C4 all prepped and ready for under Kersey, but otherwise, trying to slow things down. They even started reinforcing some of the walls to just cut off the angles outright to drain the time as much as possible, though it doesn't look like that will be slowing things down in any capacity here. So with minute 30 to go, the time for the frags might be starting very soon, as that's another one that bites the dust, and that is 3 remaining. Leviatan, where is the response?
Well, for now, it's going to be an opener up in towards servers. They've got the access and they've got the control. There is the answer starting to come back. It's immediately 2 players down, but on the opposite end, it's trade backs going all the way through. There is 1 member remaining for Leviatan. The jump in will be made. Diffuser will be attempted. It is a warden, so you won't be able to flashbang him off that regard. But with the timer ticking down, of course, Diffuser put into place. 1v3, and look at how beautiful the coordination is at this stage. Cutoffs on both sides. 30 seconds remaining on the board. They need to start making some sort of push through, but they're not really giving him any sort of options. Smokes and utility are still up and available, but as this push begins to come through, it will be cut off. TYLOO managed to win it 7-0 in their debut game on the CNL. And my lord, was that an absolutely action-packed game.
Oh yeah, it's action-packed, all right. Yeah, look, TYLOO came into this very much swinging, and not to discredit Leviatan, this was an absolute solid attempt from them. Unfortunately, just 1 step behind in terms of where they can go for an approach. And yeah, the hunker down unfortunately didn't really fully bring the success, the one that they've hoped for. But look, there's still plenty of opportunities, still plenty of chances here, and I'd say if anything, Leviatan will be able to go into this matchup and take a look at it and just, well, learn off the back of it. So I would not discredit them at all going into the remaining of CNL.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is just the first match in, and it is a great learning match for Leviatan. And of course, TYLOO will be feeling very comfortable, but they cannot let that become overconfidence and make it so that they start losing their structure, start losing their play style. But overall, look, a great game 1 from a lot of the teams today. It has been absolutely incredible to see them all play, and congratulations to TYLOO for winning it out. So, Cthulhu, CNL.
Yeah, CNL has been bringing in some of the more juicy matchups. Honestly, I have been pleasantly impressed so far with how that has worked out, and honestly, there's a very, very steady competition. Whilst, mind you, we haven't seen anything extremely out of the norm, but I'm liking the overall approach. I'm liking that there has been already quite an investment in that. There's a few of the rosters already have some of the international talent, whether it's as coaches or as players coming in, that would be able to accelerate the region very, very rapidly. So with that said, I wouldn't be surprised if we'll be seeing CNL to bring it all back and put themselves out onto the international scene, because I I would not be surprised if we'll get to see some of the Chinese representation going into the next coming majors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as far as we've seen today, it just shows the caliber that is being brought to the board from the CNL and obviously the Chinese region as well. They have done exceptionally well, and a lot of the teams look, to be honest with you, it's very scary, very terrifying with the way that they play up against each other. They can definitely deal the damage when it is needed and necessary. But in saying that, that is the end of the games for today. Doesn't mean we're done yet then, and though we have games coming up tomorrow. The first game starting us off will be King Zero Esports going up against Titan Esports Club. Wolves Esports, excuse me, will be going up against Leviatan. AG All Gamers will be going up against OneCoin, who will be making their debut here. Edward Gaming will be going up against 4 Angry Men. So a bunch of absolute banger games going on tomorrow. It is going to be absolutely interesting, and what a great start to see for the CNL.
Absolutely. So yeah, this has been a pretty phenomenal day, and look, tomorrow is promising even more heated matches. And look, yeah, the conclusion of the Playday 2 being 4am versus EDG, look, I am borderline salivating at the prospects of that game.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see, and we hope to see you guys very, very soon. I've been Taiki. This has been Cthulhu, excuse me, I'm losing it at the ending. But we hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a wonderful night. Catch you guys later.